Well, today, now that we have completed Pran Leela Upasana and we are ready to understand something specific, a piece of pragya or wisdom, knowledge, whatever you may like to call it. So, for today's session, we are going to discuss in this nugget the concept of KarmYog for 21st century. People always ask me the question, what is KarmYog for 21st century? Now, obviously, there is a need to understand KarmYog itself. Now, KarmYog has been traditionally a concept that has devolved and evolved over the ages, and it had been first talked about thousands and thousands of years ago in the time of the Vedas, and from the Vedas to the Upanishads, and then finally in the Bhagavad Gita there are quite a few chapters and shlokas which are dedicated to the understanding of the concept of Karma Yoga. Most of the rishis and the manishis and which means the great thought leaders of India who lived in India ages ago, and even in relatively modern times have discussed or talked about the concept of Karma Yoga in some way or the other. Amongst the many facets of yoga, like Bhakti Yoga or Jnana Yoga or uh, Hatha Yoga or Prana Yoga, Kriya Yoga, Raja Yoga, etc., there are many forms or many schools of yoga as such. Within that, there is this school of yoga, which is Karma Yoga, which has been defined in many different ways traditionally. I am not getting into those today because today I want to talk about Karma Yoga for 21st century, which is something that we started talking about more recently now. Now, first of all, as I had discussed in my last session, also in the second Pragya session like this, that the term 21st century has a significance here. We use the term 21st century symbolically to denote the dynamism that we want to bring into this definition of Karma Yoga itself. So we want to say that Karma Yoga is not a fixed, closed-ended kind of a concept that is being presented. We want to say that it's dynamic, and what we are talking about today is not even going to be relevant 10 years from now, or completely exactly relevant the way we are talking about it today 10 years from now or 20 years from now, or maybe even tomorrow. That is the meaning of the temporalness, this we discussed yesterday. So the 21st century is not just about the century, but it denotes a kind of dynamism in the definition of Karma Yoga. But Karma Yoga for 21st century really refers to something which is slightly more relevant than what Karma Yoga used to denote earlier. When we talk about Karma Yoga for 21st century, we are really focusing on two aspects of our lives today. One is the aspect by which we earn our living, which means earning a livelihood. And the other aspect is living life itself, which primarily consists of the various things that we do, which broadly are termed under the word called lifestyle. So if we were to integrate these two concepts of lifestyle and livelihood, what would that look like? What would emerge? That is what Karma Yoga for 21st century tries to explore. So it's really an integration of life and livelihood, or lifestyle and livelihood. Now, livelihood really refers to not just a certain class of society, but anyone in society tries to earn a livelihood by doing a certain number of things. So let's say one studies to become a doctor, or an engineer, or a lawyer, or an accountant, or a singer, or a dancer, or a footballer. Now, all of these things that they do are primarily aimed at earning a living. This is what will help them to maintain their life on this planet. Now, that is not a definition of what that person is, although more often than not, that is how people end up defining themselves or introducing themselves or thinking about themselves. People always talk about themselves by saying that, yes, I'm a lawyer or I'm a doctor. That's the introduction. We in Indian languages, we call it the parichay. That is the identity that sticks onto you. But if you really look at everything that a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or a player or a singer or a dancer or anyone for that matter does throughout the day, you would find that the person would do so many other things. The person would probably relate to their own relatives, near and dear ones, and in certain ways that would bring a certain identity. So one is a person, maybe a father or a daughter or a husband or a wife or a brother or a sister. Now these are also roles that the person plays. In society, wherever a person finds himself or herself, there are so many other people in society who they try to relate to, their neighbors, their colleagues. Colleagues in the workplace, you might connect with livelihood, but you also connect with colleagues in your workplace beyond just your work. You form relationships with people. And then there are not just relationships with people. You form relationships with everything around you. It may be a plant. You may be taking care of a plant in your garden. You may be just cleaning your bathroom when you are taking a shower. You may be just cleaning your workspace. Are you a cleaner at that point of time? Of course you are. You may be eating, you may be sleeping. So are you a sleeper? Are you an eater? So these are all hundreds of different things that we do throughout the day. Also to maintain our lifestyle, maintain our lives, which is what we call lifestyle. Now, this earning a living, livelihood, and how we spend our day is more or less what we call lifestyle. Now these two, if they get integrated together, how do we really think in terms of integrating this? The word work-life balance, or the term work-life balance has also been used. But I kind of try to differentiate between work-life balance and KarmYog for 21st century, although there are some points of intersect there, is that a balance means something is not really stable. A balance means it is trying to stabilize itself. It's falling this way or the other way, and then it's trying to be in balance. Whereas when you're integrated, then you're really together. It's a stable oneness that we are talking about when we are talking about integration. So it's not a question of just balancing between your professional life and personal life, but it's more than that. It's really integrating your personal and your professional life itself is what KarmYog for 21st century refers to. Or it's the concept that tries to bring about an exploration, a discovery of the various facets of our own being, which can allow us to integrate our lifestyle with our livelihood, which means our personal life with our professional life. Today, one of the biggest pandemics or the biggest epidemics that is plaguing us is not essentially just COVID or Corona. We think that the biggest pandemic or the biggest epidemic that plagues us, one of them is also the barrier that exists between our professional and our personal lives. What if we could dissolve this barrier and live a life which is just one life, where our personal and our professional life is really integrated together? I'm not using the grammatical term are integrated together, you can notice, because I really believe that these should be one. And that is what KarmYog for 21st century tries to explore. Now, there are many other ways in which we can understand and explain KarmYog for 21st century, and I will touch on all these things in subsequent discussions and subsequent sessions. But for today, let us stay with the one that we discussed now.